Okay. Okay, hello everybody, good morning. So we're starting our second day with Remote Workforce Summit. I hope everybody is doing well, everybody is safe. My name is Varsha from Khaleej Times. And before I begin our next session, I would like to thank each and all the attendees. Thank you so much of taking out time and coming and participating in this event. Thank you so much. It is an absolute privilege having each one of you all on this platform. While moving on to our next session, which would be automation and future of supply chain. Our speaker for today would be Ms. Asha Divakaran. She's the head of innovation and process disruption, RSA Global UAE. While giving you a brief introduction for Ms. Asha, a digital freight forwarding and supply chain service provider headquartered out of the UAE. In her role, she guides the organization in process disruption and re-engineering, including automation and digital disruption, in line with the company's overall goal of becoming internally as well as externally 100% digital by 2021. So thank you, Ms. Asha. It is an absolute honor having you taking our time and speaking about such a relevant topic. I request,
thank you, Asha.
please, before I begin my session, Ms. Asha, I would just want to request the attendees that before we begin, all the questions will be answered by Ms. Asha by end of the session. So I request any questions you will have, please put in the Q&A box. Thank you. You can start, Ms. Asha.
Great. Thank you so much, Varsha. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. And thank you to the organizers for, giving me this opportunity. So I'm just going to share my screen so we can start. I'm assuming everyone can see this. Okay, so my name is Asha Divakaran, as Varsha just mentioned. I am the head of innovation and process disruption at RSA Global. We are a supply chain solutions provider. We're headquartered here in the UAE, as she mentioned, but we have offices in 4 regions around the world. And we provide the full gamut of supply chain solutions to our customers. So the topic that I'm going to be discussing today is automation and the future of supply chain. So it's interesting because if you see these two words together, and especially with this kind of a background, I feel the truth is that, actually the glue that kind of binds this together is much more organic, and it has to do with culture and people. And during the course of my presentation, I hope to share more of that with you. So today, what I'll be discussing is a bit of an introduction to the supply chain and supply chain management, what COVID has taught us about this, the supply chain, and then what's in store for us next in the industry. And then after that, I'll move into our journey with automation, hopefully being able to share some insights so that it may help with your process as well. So to begin, if you want to get into as an introduction to the supply chain is essentially the life cycle of a product from point of production to point of consumption. There are several of these supply chains running in parallelly at any given time. It's the foundation on which most of trade and business takes place. And so it's no wonder that about a tenth of global GDP is generated by this industry. So I just wanted to share with you the supply chain of a very popular product, the iPhone. So in case some of you don't know, the iPhone is actually a very well-traveled product before it reaches the palm of your hand. So it's designed in the US, picks up a few components over there, kind of travels around the world, Germany, Italy, Japan, picking up different things like sensors and other components, and all of these components are assembled and goes to China. Come together and go to China for assembly. So this is actually a very well managed supply chain because they keep a very keen eye on their suppliers actually, and that's the key to their success. But if you can imagine, there are, like I said, thousands of supply chains happening parallelly, and not all of them are orchestrated this well. So the truth about our industry is that there's a myriad of entities, people, processes involved, and add to that, there's a lot of administrative tasks that are part of the supply chain that can sort of potentially clog the system because it all has to happen in order for things to move. And a recent study showed that an average goods container, and you might find this interesting, goes through 27 different entities. It sees 36 different documents and 240 exchanges of information. Add to that, I saw that it says that there's about a 40% possibility of error in invoices. So that's a lot, and it adds to all the inefficiencies. Add to that, something like COVID comes and hits us, and that just magnifies all the problems of these kind of challenges that we have in the supply chain. Because a lot of companies had to there was a shutdown, and then a lot of companies had to move to not operating from their premises. So the dependency on manual operations and people doing administrative tasks, which involved paperwork, that of course came down. And then you see the domino effect of it, because as a result, consumers, anticipating these problems, started doing stuff like stockpiling, as we all know. So we cater to customers from a broad range of industries, from F&B to oil and gas to chemicals to FMCG. And really, we've seen the struggles that they're facing, these ups and downs, and we can anticipate more of that, unfortunately. But our promise is always to keep their supply chains moving. And I have to say that some of the initiatives that we put in place have helped us supporting our customers. So what's next for the supply chain? And going forward, you will see a lot of debate and discussion on what to do. So countries will be looking at domestic production to mitigate the risk. People, supply chain decision makers, will be looking at multiple partners instead, not to put all their eggs in one basket. And then there'll be mapping of the supply chain is recommended. There'll be focus on e-commerce. These are the trends we can expect so that we can still deliver to the customer. But the thing about automation, and the beauty about automation, which is also one of the trends that will come up, is that it is something that is internal. Like with everything else, there's an external influence that you have to wield. But then with automation, you can sort of introspect, see what you can do, measures that you can take, and in your course of action, and then see what you can do to make your own supply chain resilient. So typically when you think about automation, I think in supply chain people always look or visualize blockchain and robots, in the warehouse. But you don't have to go to that extent yet. That is definitely coming, but you can take more smaller steps and determine what can give you customer satisfaction in smaller ways, and also focus on business continuity. So here's where I will take you sort of to our journey, and hope to share some information on that. So RSA, a couple of years ago, we set a vision, and as Varsha mentioned in the introduction, our vision is to become 100% digital by 2021. That means all the touch points with the customer will be digital. And why do we want this? So that it's as seamless as possible for our customers, and efficient. So we have approached this in a three-pronged kind of way. So the first thing is, trying to set up a digital supply network. So that's essentially a platform on which the entire supply chain can sit. So from, let's say, procurement to final mile. And then we have turned to telematics, technologies like telematics for our fleet management, so that our transportation and distribution can be as efficient as possible. And that includes for e-commerce. And then finally, robotic process automation, which is what I'm going to speak to you about in detail today. So if you're new to this, RPA, or robotic process automation, is a technology where a software where you can program an invisible digital assistant to sort of imitate what you would do. Let's say, for a very simple example, every day I convert an Excel into a PDF, and I shoot an email to about 100 customers. So I don't need to do that manually anymore. I can train the robot, or it's called a bot, in order to do this. And this is a very simple example, as I mentioned, but you can, of course, use this in very much more complicated processes as well. So what drew us to RPA? So, as I've mentioned before, we wanted to try to address our customers' needs, and something that we can give us a 24/7 service as much as possible is, attractive to us. Bots can work 24/7. It improves accuracy because there's less human error involved. But the another major factor was regarding our team. And basically we just wanted to be able to free up their intellect so that they could do more customer-centric, more quality and engaging work. So here I'll give you a little peek into our culture for a minute, because this is what I was referring to in the beginning about the glue that kind of reinforces everything that we do. So we have what you can see as the 4 pillars of RSA. So that's our core values, our core purpose, our brand promise, and our BHAG. And so the BHAG, if you haven't heard this term, is a big, hairy, audacious goal, a long-term goal. And this is kind of where my role as head of innovation comes in, because it's more, my role is kind of like culture-oriented too, where my responsibility is to enable the team to get to that point, with the right tools and resources, so that they are doing, exactly this, the 5,000 disruptors solving demand chain challenges in the next 10 years or so. And actually RPA fits in very well into this framework, because basically what we're saying is, be free and innovate, because all the drudgery and the manual tasks that you are doing can be taken over by these digital assistants. So the first step when we wanted to turn to RPA was, of course, to choose the right partner. So we wanted somebody who we can trust, who we can embed into our system pretty easily, their platform. We wanted the team to be independent, to be able to develop their own bots. Eventually, we want this to scale. We're still pretty young in our journey, but we're working on that. So then we wanted the right resources to support the team to be able to upskill. And then, of course, the support from the customer support from the platform itself, and visible ROI. So this is where our partners Automation Anywhere comes in. And they're pioneers in the industry. They have an amazing team that really supports us very well. And they have an excellent online university, which my team has also turned to to learn about this the software and how to develop and deploy bots. This has been going really well for us so far. and we're looking forward to this long-term relationship. So I just want to give you an idea of what you can expect when you start your journey, or if you start your journey. So basically, you will first deep dive into your processes in the company across departments. You'll have hundreds of conversations with people, and your aim is to quickly hone in on the processes that are sort of the low-hanging fruit. So where two digital interfaces are working together, and then you can get the bot to make that process and save people from any mindless work. So to show you what we have been working on, these are some of the areas that we've been deploying the bots in. So in finance, in customer service, in operations, and in some of our documentation stuff. So in finance, for example, sending statements of accounts, maybe one of my colleagues will be spending 4 to 5 hours a week reconciling the files, and then the aging files and all of that, and then sending it to hundreds of customers. So now you just program the bot, you invest some time in that part of it, and then it's a matter of a few minutes every week or every month for the bot to do this, and that frees up their time. But so I will talk to you a little bit more about a more complicated process, though, which has helped us during this time specifically, and that is the last one, the documentation. So typically our team would actually take hard copy paper, extract information, go to a particular portal for this kind of a process, and enter information. There'll be like 70 or 80 clicks of time spent with texts and drop downs and all of that, and then they get the output that they need to finish the documentation process. Now with the bots, you have optical character recognition, which can extract the data. You have this something called a task bot that will do the task, which will consolidate all the input, and then of course put it into the portal, give you the same result. It saves like half an hour for each job for all of our team members. There are several team members involved, so you're talking about hundreds of hours saved potentially in a month, which is really great. So this is pretty much the ecosystem that you will see when on a platform like this. You have the development part of it, and then once you develop and deploy a bot, you can actually make the process owner, you can give access to the control room so that they can be the bot managers now. And then finally there's the analytics that you can see, and that's really great because you can see how the bots are doing, and over time, especially with IQ bot, there's machine learning involved, and you can only hope to see an improvement in efficiency as we go. So the last part I want to leave you with is the key takeaways. And if it doesn't matter if you're from the supply chain or any other kind of industry, but if you're thinking about an RPA journey, I would say always keep your customer in focus first to determine how you want to proceed. Work with your partners who are very flexible, and how it's been in our case, it works really well for it sort of lubricates the journey. And then of course, try not to have analysis paralysis, move forward, engage the team quickly with focus groups, because that helps also, because a digital transformation is a cultural transformation as well. It's not always easy, but if you engage the team early, that's really good. And then keep your eyes on the data, because that will help you with decision making. And then a small tip at the end is just to be on top of your cybersecurity. That's it. Thank you so much. That's the end of my presentation. So Varsha, if there's any questions, that'd be great.
Yes. Well, I'm looking at questions, and so far we don't have any questions.
Okay.
I think it was an excellent session that we had on automation and future of supply chain. It was a great session. In fact, I would actually request all the attendees, anybody having questions, they can always go back even after the session is ended to go in the Q&A box and ask questions. Ms. Asha can always go back and answer them to each one of you all. And yes, it was an honor having you, Miss Asha. Thank you so much of taking out time in a situation like this and, speaking about such a relevant topic. So thanks a lot. Well, moving on to our next session, I would request
Yep.
the attendees to click on the right. There's on the right of your screen or the computer of your screen. There's a button of session. Just click on session and you can join the next session. We have our next session, which is the topic would be, what does it take to scale automation for maximum business impact? And our speaker would be Mr. Fawaz Kadan. So I would request all the attendees to please go and start seeing the next session. And
Thank you, Varsha. Thank
see
you so
you,
much.
Ms. Asha. Thank you so much. I hope you're doing well.
Thank you for everyone attending as well.
Bye-bye. Thank you all
Bye-bye.
the
Bye-bye.
attendees. Bye.